Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome. We are your hosts, Josefa Kapadia and Jasper Rivers.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.
Get Paid for Your Pad, another episode, and today I'm talking to a very experienced host, somebody I met in Puerto Rico a few weeks ago during the real estate conference there. He hosts in Daytona Beach, Florida, but has also rented out rooms in Arlington, Texas. So JJ Fenceroy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Jasper. Good to be with you.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm not doing too bad. I'm up here in Nebraska actually at the time, but not quite as warm as Texas, but still sunny and nice.
Very good, very good. So we met in Puerto Rico a couple of weeks ago. What were your thoughts on Puerto Rico as an investment location for short-term rentals?
Yeah, that was interesting. I actually went down there looking for some possible opportunities to invest in new properties or maybe even Airbnbs. Thinking that, after the hurricane and everything, there might be some properties that people just kind of gave up on, said, I'm leaving here, and you could pick them up for cheap, fix them up, and maybe turn a profit off of those. So that's kind of what I went in thinking. When I got there, it seemed like the focus was kind of more on the tax benefits of investing in Puerto Rico, of which there are a lot. But as people heard from one of your previous shows, to really benefit from a lot of those tax benefits, you really have to plan on living in Puerto Rico, being a quote unquote bona fide resident of Puerto Rico. And it's an interesting prospect. It's a beautiful island, but I don't think I'm quite ready to pack up and move to Puerto Rico at this point in time. But definitely something I'll keep in mind. And really, in addition to those tax breaks that you get from being a resident, I still think there are some opportunities down in Puerto Rico, even if just to pick up a property and see if you could do something with it on Airbnb. I think there's really a lot of potential down there.
And just a few hours ago, I saw an article come out that announced that Airbnb is actually going to work together with the Puerto Rico government to motivate people to visit Puerto Rico. Over the next 3 months, the company will donate all fees from bookings in the country to a local recovery organization, and it will launch 50 new experiences for tourists to sample the island's offerings.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so they're trying to help out a little bit. Anyway, yeah, I agree with what you just said. I couldn't really find anything for myself either. I think in order to find the really good deals, you gotta spend a little bit more time there. But anyway, our visit to Puerto Rico kind of led to this podcast episode, as we were talking about some different strategies of improving your income on Airbnb and to raise occupancy levels. But before we get into that, you want to just give a short explanation of sort of your Airbnb experience?
Yeah, sure. I back in 2014, I had heard of Airbnb, but hadn't tried one yet. And I was on a trip through Europe and had a couple days left in Paris before flying back to the States, which I didn't have any lodging booked yet. So I thought, hey, let me give this thing a try. Jumped online, found this little Airbnb. It was this lady who was renting out actually really the bedroom to her apartment, because it was a 1-bedroom flat. And she just kind of set up her own living space in the living room and rented out the room. Small room, but I mean, it was nice, clean, great part of town, easy access to transportation. And I thought, man, this is awesome. So at the time I had my 3-bedroom house in Daytona Beach where I was going to school, and was using one room as an office. The other is my room. The third room was sitting empty most of the time. So I thought I'd start renting that out. And tried it out, and I was amazed that people actually wanted to come stay at my house with me. But it was a fantastic experience. I was getting awesome guests from all over the world: Germany, Denmark, Canada, Korea, Japan, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So eventually, I tried renting out the whole place when I was gone for the summer. That went even better. I found out that the market for renting a whole house is much better than just a spare room. So I just kind of kept expanding. And when I moved to Texas, I decided to continue renting out the Daytona House full time. And now I'm renting out rooms in my house in Arlington, Texas.
Very cool. And you shared with me some of the numbers from the Daytona House. And from what I remember is you're making a killing with that place.
Yeah, it's doing really, really well. It's just a couple blocks from the beach, and I started off renting out that spare room for like $40-something a night. And I found that when I rent out the entire house with 3 beds plus a pull-out sofa, so I do guests of up to 8. In the high season, which is really March in Daytona Beach, I can rent that thing easily for $350 a night or more. And I can, make, hard to say, around $7,000 a month on a really good month. And meantime, I've just got the mortgage that I initially had on it, which that comes out to probably $1,200 or so a month. But then there are, of course, all the other expenses. There's the cleaning and the lawn care and the pool care and all that stuff. So that adds up. My expenses are very high, but the gross revenues make up for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what about the rooms that you rent out in Texas? That's your own house. That's where you live yourself, yeah?
Yeah, that when I moved to Texas, because of the experience with Airbnb and Daytona, I thought, when I went to Texas, let's find a nice big house with some extra rooms that we can rent out. So I kind of had Airbnb in mind as I was searching for a place to live, and found this great place with this whole upstairs area. It had like a bedroom, a living room, and a Jack and Jill bathroom up there with lots of privacy, a little balcony. And then downstairs on the opposite end of the house was another guest room with its own ensuite bathroom, walk-in closet, and then a beautiful master bedroom. So I was thinking I'll stay in the master bedroom. I made an office for myself in one part, and I could rent out the entire upstairs. I built a wall bed in there so that I could keep a couch in the living room, but have that wall bed that they could pull down at night for extra sleeping spaces. Put another full bed in there and a queen bed in the bedroom. So room for 6 people up there. And I'll rent that out to groups of up to 6, or the downstairs space to groups of 2. Or I've also, and we can get into this later, of multiple listings and managing those. I also have a third listing which has those 2 spaces together. And that's going really well. I've only been doing that since September, but so far I'm happy with where it's going.
Awesome. Well, let's get into the calendar settings, and how we got into this onto this topic is really because we were talking in Puerto Rico, and I sold my house about a year ago, right? So I haven't really hosted on Airbnb since a year, and so there's things that I kind of forget, like the things that I used to do to make more money, but kind of like the topic that we're talking about reminded me of like a little trick. We were talking about how do you fill up those gap days? The one night or 2 night gaps that you get in your calendar. Now, obviously, the one option is to set your minimum nights to 1, but then not everybody wants to have one night stays because it's a little hassle, and also sometimes it's not optimal if you have like a 1 week availability in your calendar and somebody books like one night in the middle. Then it might be hard to fill up the 2 or 3 days on either side of it, and so what I used to do back in Amsterdam, I started with a 2 night minimum, and so those 1 night gaps I couldn't fill them up, and the 2 nighters were pretty hard as well. So what I would do is, as soon as I would get the booking that would kind of create a 1 or 2 day gap, I would message the booker, and I would ask them if they've already, booked their flights. And if not, I would tell them like, hey, you know what? If you want to stay like a day longer or 2 days longer, depending on the gaps in my calendar, I would often offer them a big discount. And like a good amount of the times, the guest actually amended their reservation, and that way I was able to fill up a lot of those gaps and still make somewhere between like 50 and 70% of my nightly rate, I'd say. But overall, that strategy kind of really boosted my occupancy levels from about like 80, 85 maybe to 90, 95, and sometimes even 100%. And so I shared this with you, JJ, and then you tried this strategy for your own listings, and you immediately got some extra. You filled up some extra days, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's kind of funny. We were sitting there at dinner, and I get my Airbnb ring on my phone, and I go to it, and it was this guest who had already booked with me for 3 days, but he wanted to extend his stay 2 days. So he wanted to show up a couple days early, and I was like, "Wow, that's awesome! I mean, I don't have to pay any extra cleaning fees for this." I was like, "If only I'd booked 3 days more, I would have completely filled up this gap, and I wouldn't have anything." But now I've got a 1-day gap, which is when you made the suggestion about that, and I can't believe over all this time that had never occurred to me myself. But so the next morning, I sat down and I looked at my calendar for June, and I had like 3 of these 1-day gaps in there, which normally my minimum stay is 3 days. But when I do have a 1-day gap, I'll drop it down to a 1-day minimum, and sometimes jack up the price to make it worth my while. And in this case, I just started sending messages out to all the people on either side of those gaps. And within a couple hours, one lady came back to me and was like, "Hey, that sounds great." And I was offering them like discounts of anywhere from 40 to 50%. And this lady comes back within a couple hours and says, "Absolutely, I'll take that extra day." And right there, within a couple hours, just by sending that message, I had an extra $160 out of it. So I'm like, that's awesome. So I definitely plan on doing that in the future.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And then we were kind of thinking like, what are some other tricks that you can use to sort of increase your occupancy, and how do you optimize the calendar settings? Because these days you can choose from quite a wide variety of settings. Of course you have the minimum night stay. So you're using a free night minimum stay, right?
That's correct.
Why did you choose that?
For Daytona Beach, a lot of that has to do with the cost of cleaning. Because I'm not there, I hire a cleaning crew, and they actually do a lot more than clean for me because I'm out of state. They're really my eyes and ears for the property. They send me information on what's going on with the house, what's broken, how the guests were, and things like that. So that ends up being a pretty high cost, which it helps a lot if I have longer term stays, because then I only have to pay that once for that entire stay. Mm-hmm. And with bookings of less than 3 days, I find that the profit margins just get so small that it's not necessarily worth my while. I can, increase the price a little bit and just look for that one, golden BB guest who shows up and says, "Hey, I'm willing to book it for that extra." But a lot of times you end up with just those days unfilled. So I just found it uneconomical in many cases to do 1 or 2 day stays. Well, actually, it can be economical, except I don't want to get 1 or 2 day stays when I could get 3, 4, and 5 day stays. So I essentially have the minimum there until I get a 1 or 2 day gap, and then I'll take that minimum away if it's economical to do so.
Right, but then when you take the minimum away, then people can book 1 or 2 night stays for your entire calendar, right?
No, you can actually make exceptions specifically for those gaps that you have. When you go under the settings, there's actually, I think it's under the availability settings. You can choose custom dates for that and set however many you want. And so a couple ways I've used this too are like in Daytona Beach, we have Bike Week every March. It's one of the huge draws there. You have thousands of motorcycles from all over the country that converge upon Daytona. And it's like a 2-week affair. And getting 1 or 2 day stays for that are ridiculous because most people come there for at least a week. So I generally for that 2-week period, I put up a 1-week minimum stay. And most people in the area do the same thing. And you can also go the other way if my normal is 3 days and I've got a 2-day gap, I can change it for those specific dates to just 2 days.
Right. That's a very useful setting. How do you use the cleaning fee in combination with the minimum night stay to sort of optimize your calendar and increase your revenue?
Yeah, so I've talked to a lot of people, and some people have like the I guess the sense that the cleaning fee is specifically for cleaning, and that's one way to think about it. But I kind of think of the cleaning fee as a way to average out the daily rate. And I kind of look at it from the perspective of your potential guest. When they're looking for places to book, they're looking at that average nightly rate generally. And a lot of times, they only see your cleaning fee if they actually dig into your listing and look for it. Otherwise, all they're seeing is the average, which is the average of your base rates plus your cleaning fee divided by, or actually it's the total of your base rate plus your cleaning fee divided by the total days. And if you, like I said, in Daytona, my cleaning fee is quite high. So if I did that, essentially I would have to lower my base rate to keep an average daily rate that people would book. Whereas if I lower my cleaning fee, I can raise my base rate, and then when I have longer stays, I make more money. Because if I have a really low base rate over a long period of time, 7 days, I'm only making so much per day. So I would rather have a higher nightly rate and then implement a minimum stay. So the cleaning fee, is less than my cleaning, but if they're staying for 3 days and I only have to do one cleaning for that period, I can still come out ahead with that. And I can run through some numbers kind of how that will impact you if you like.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I was looking at kind of a simplified example, but if you look at like a place where you have, say, a $50 nightly rate and a $50 cleaning fee, and somebody's looking to book that for 2 nights, essentially that's going to be $50 per night or $100 plus 50 is 50 for the cleaning fee is 150 divided by 2 nights. What your guest is going to see when they look to book that is $75 a night. Whereas if they're looking to book for 7 nights, that's $50 a night times 7 is $350 plus 50 is $400. The average there is going to be $57 a night. Now you're much more likely to get somebody to book at 57 than $75 a night, right? So based on your market, you can look at it, and often you can find where the price point at which you get bookings and at which bookings drop off. So if at $60, you're about 75%, you have about a 75% chance of getting a booking at that price point. Whereas at $65, it drops down to about a 50% chance. Well, now if you're at $57 for a 7-night stay or $75 for a 2-night stay, it's unlikely that anybody's going to book your place for 2 nights. And for a 3-night stay, for what it's worth, that price is going to be about $66. So you're still less than 50-50 for getting the place booked. For 7 nights, it's great. Problem with that is the market of people who are looking for 7-night stays is much smaller than people who are looking for 2 and 3-night stays. So it's better to lower that cleaning fee and raise your base rate so that you maintain your revenue, but at the same time, the guest you maintain your revenue like across, stays anywhere from 2 to 7 nights or more. It doesn't fluctuate nearly as much. And the guest sees like a reasonable rate that they can buy. So you increase the chance of getting a booking. And by doing that, I found that I can get more bookings and manipulate that minimum night, the number of the minimum night stay, as well as the cleaning fee, in order to maximize the market that I'm actually targeting in terms of both the cost per night and the size of, how many people are looking for 3-night stays versus 7-night stays. Does all that make sense?
It makes sense, but I also feel like it might be a little bit complicated for everyone to, to immediately sort of get this idea. So let's dig a little deeper and elaborate a little bit, because I do think it's a really interesting topic. Like, do you at what level do you set your cleaning fee, right? Because there's,
Right.
I mean, there's just kind of like two extremes. Like, for example, if you can set it at 0, right? In which case, every single night will be priced at the same, right? So we take your example from like, because that's kind of an easy number, like $50 a night. So if you set it at $50 a night and you charge no cleaning fee, then every single stay would be $50 on average per night.
Yep.
And so that's kind of like the most extreme case where, where then you're kind of promoting a shorter stay, right? Because then like there's no premium that you're charging for shorter stays. If somebody wants to book for one night, they're paying 50. If they book for 7 nights, they're paying 50 as well.
Exactly.
Does that make sense, right?
Yes.
I'm trying. I haven't really, thought about this in very much detail recently. So I'm also kind of just thinking out loud, trying to just get a picture clear for myself.
Yeah, right.
All right.
And kind of along those same lines too. So the price is it's $50 a night whether you're booking for 2 nights or 7 nights at that point, right?
Yeah. So then you're kind of encouraging people to book shorter stays.
Or you're not discouraging them because it's the same either way.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, exactly. Like you basically what you're saying is, hey, I have no preference over longer or shorter day. Well, actually, like you're really encouraging the shorter stays because let's say your cleaning costs are like $25. Then if you get a 1-day booking, then you're only making $25 for that particular day. But if you're getting a 2-day booking, then you're making 75 in total. So you're making 37.5 per day. So I guess if you set the cleaning fee below the actual costs, what you're really doing is you're making less for shorter stays and you're making more for longer stays per night, right? So I see it's almost like you're getting you're sort of punishing yourself or you're that's not a good way to say it, but like you get paid less for shorter stays. So, but
right.
at the same time you're encouraging people to book the shorter stays that way.
You are, and that's kind of where those two play in together, using the minimum night stay together with the cleaning fee. Because when you lower the cleaning fee, like you said, it keeps the nightly rate from changing very much. So there's no incentive or disincentive between staying for 2 nights or 7 nights. But you can use a minimum night stay to reduce those 2 night stays because, as you pointed out, you've still got your cleaning fee that's going to apply whether they're staying for 2 nights or 7 nights. And that eats into your profit. So for you, it makes a difference. And you can find, a nice balance in between there of minimum night stays and where you set your cleaning fee. But again, if you set a really high cleaning fee, it discourages those shorter stays, which can be good because that can eat into your profits. But it also requires you to lower your base rates. And really the problem with not having a minimum night stay, especially if you're in that position where your cleaning fees are kind of taking a lot of your profit. The problem there is that, again, the number of people who are looking for 2 and 3 night stays, that group is a lot bigger than the ones who are looking for 7 night stays. So by having some kind of cleaning fee in there, it disincentivizes people from doing 2 and 3 night stays. It doesn't prohibit them from doing it, but it makes it less, they're paying a higher price per night. So
yeah, so let's think about the other end of the extreme, right? So we talked about having a 0 cleaning fee, in which case all the stays are at the same have the same price, no matter if you book 1 night or 7 nights. But for the host, you're actually making a lot less for the shorter stays than for the longer stays, right? Now let's look at the other end of the extreme. Let's say you're renting out, your base price is $50, but now you're charging like a really high cleaning fee. Let's say like $100, right? So now what happens is a 1 night stay would come to $150, but for example, a 7-day stay would be $350 plus 100 is $450 divided by 7 is
like 64 or so.
Wow, you're
just under $65.
Math genius. So now, like it goes down from 150 a night to all the way down to 65, about $65 a night, which is a big difference. So I guess if you charge like a really high cleaning fee, then you essentially what you're doing is you're discouraging people to book shorter stays, right?
Exactly.
And it also means that you as a host are making more per night for the shorter stays, and you're making less per night for the longer stays. Does that make sense?
Right, that's true. And that can kind of be the downside of doing that, because you're looking at this huge difference, $100 for a 2-night stay versus $65 for a 7-night stay, which encourages people with 7-night stays. But again, that marketplace for people looking for a 7-night stay is much smaller. Mm-hmm. So your chances of actually getting a booking there are going to be lower as well, and you have to factor that in.
Right. So it gets more complicated as well if you're trying to like look at what are the typical amount of days that people book. But I guess there's like there's kind of a sweet spot. Like for example, let's say like you want to optimize for like 3-day stays, right? Then if you charge no cleaning fee, and you set it at 50 a night, then a 3-night stay would be 150. But then you're only making you're only making 125 if you have the $25 cleaning fee. But also what you could do, you could charge like let's say let's say a $75 cleaning fee, and then you lower your price, your base rate to like 25. So then essentially that's the same, right? You still end up charging 150. So for a 3-day stay, that actually wouldn't matter for the price, but then like for the other stays, for the shorter stays and for the longer stays, it would matter. So
yeah,
it's getting a little complicated here, but
no, and actually that's absolutely true, especially when you look at going from a base price of $50 down to a base price of $25 over 6 days. If you're charging $50 a night, that's $300. Mm-hmm. Over 6 days, if you're charging $25 a night, that's only $150. So yeah, you can add your cleaning fee on top of that, which is 75 is $225. But that's still less than even the base price without a cleaning fee. So in the long term, you would end up losing money for that if you get longer stays, and you are going to get some stays longer than 3 nights, most likely. I guess it depends on your market, but
I guess we can do a whole topic just on this very specific setting.
Yeah, and it can get very math intensive very quickly. So.
I know. But, all right. Well, you know what? Like maybe we'll talk more about this in the future. But let's move on to some other kind of settings. Now you were talking about. Sorry. Yeah.
There was something you pointed out earlier, which was when you get these gaps, like I call them these sandwich periods. They're open days that are sandwiched between 2 bookings, and how to handle those things. And so an example of this is I have a booking where the checkout is on Monday, and my next booking, their check-in, is on Saturday. So I've got 5 days here available, and my minimum night stay is 3 days. So there are 3 options that people can do there. They can either do a Monday through Wednesday stay, a Tuesday, Thursday, or a Wednesday, Friday. Or actually, I guess they could do 4-day stays or a 5-day stay as well, right?
Yeah.
So a few different options there. The worst possible thing that they could do is do a Tuesday to Thursday stay.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because now you got to do a cleaning for that one. And if you open up that 1-day gap on either end of that, you've got to do cleanings for both of those. So you're paying 3 cleaning fees for that period. That's worst case scenario. Best case scenario is you do all 5. And then in between there is you do like a Monday to Thursday or a Tuesday to Friday.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead.
But that's because you charge the cleaning fee that you charge is lower than the actual cost, right? If the cleaning fee is the same as the cost, then you wouldn't mind doing those extra cleanings because you're getting paid for it, right?
Right. That's true. But then you do run into the problems that we were just discussing about, the differences between a 2-night stay and a 7-night stay and where to optimize that. Whereas if you lower that cleaning fee, the difference in how much you make doesn't really change as much based on how many nights they stay. Mm-hmm. So looking at the sandwich price thing, the way that I approached this was I kind of wanted to discourage people from doing like a Tuesday through Thursday booking. So I would set my prices the lowest on Monday and Friday, set them a little bit higher on Tuesday and Thursday, and set them the highest on Wednesday. So if they do want to book a Tuesday through Thursday, essentially I'm getting the most money out of that. And whereas if they book the whole week, they're getting the same price. So say my average price per night for that week was $100. Instead of doing $100 for every night, say I do Monday and Friday are $87. Tuesday, Thursday is $100, and Wednesday is $125. The average price for a Tuesday through Thursday is going to be higher than if they did like a Monday through Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
But my revenues aren't really going to change all that much based on those. So it penalizes them for doing a Tuesday through Thursday, and it kind of makes it worth my while.
Yeah. It's kind of what you're doing, and I think this is a really good way to optimize your calendar. And this is what you want to do is kind of align your own sort of preferences with the prices that you're charging.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're aligning your revenue essentially, because if you do get that Tuesday through Thursday, like you're making more, but there's also a very high chance that you'll be losing out on those 2 gap days.
Right. But
so
at least,
but then that even makes that the strategy of like offering the extra days at a discount even more appealing. I would say, because if you do get that Tuesday through Thursday booking that you don't really want, because the prices are higher and the Monday and the Fridays are cheaper, then it'd be very attractive to offer that Monday and that Friday to the guests, because you don't have to offer that much of a discount because they're priced a lot lower anyway.
Exactly. And you're saving the cleaning fee or the cost of cleaning for those days.
Right. Interesting. So that's a cool strategy. You mentioned something about managing your calendar by linking multiple property listings through the Airbnb linked calendar function and other third party apps. Because your house in Texas, you're renting out an entire floor, but then you're also renting out single rooms, right? You have like multiple listings for one house.
Yeah, I do. And one of my concerns when I first started doing that was I had the 2 spaces, and I'm like, man, I've got to be really quick because I have instant book on mine too. So when somebody books the upstairs, if I have a third listing with both the upstairs and downstairs, I immediately would have to go and block off that listing with both spaces. But then I found in the Airbnb app, if you go under listings and availability, you'll find an option for linked Airbnb calendars where I could take those 2 listings, the guest room downstairs and then the upstairs area, and link those to the listing that essentially had both of those spaces together. And whenever somebody books the upstairs, that listing that has both upstairs and downstairs together automatically gets blocked off. Or when somebody books both spaces together, then both that upstairs space by itself and the downstairs listing, they get blocked off. So it makes management so much easier for me.
Yeah, and this is a function that that a lot of people requested, because when it didn't exist, it was like such a pain in the butt, right? To like manage like multiple listings within one house.
Yeah,
and you have a chance of getting double bookings if if you make a mistake, and that's like very costly, because that essentially like just having to cancel one reservation will basically cost you your superhost status. That's basically what happened to me when I made a mistake with my calendar settings, which we can also get into.
Yeah, and actually that's the as we were talking about instant booking just a second ago, that actually gives you a little bit more flexibility on that, and that you can cancel up to 3 times. But again, if you end up canceling that 4th time, you have lost your superhost status for a year, and that's a big hit, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Like you can cancel a couple times with the instant when you get the instant bookings. Let's see. Let's just go through. So did you have anything else to add to that, or?
Well, going back to the, in addition to that integrated way of linking calendars on Airbnb, they also have under that same under the availability tab, they also have options to import and export your Airbnb calendars to like Google Calendar or HomeAway, VRBO, and iCloud. So that's out there. And then I'm not so familiar with some of the other third-party apps, but I'm aware of some of the ones that are out there, like iRoomie or AirGMS or Vacation Rental Calendar Sync. And I'm sure there are dozens others out there, as well as other tools to help manage your calendar. If you're stuck trying to manage your calendar, I would say, go out there, look on Google or check the forums and find some of these tools that other people are using, figure out which ones would work for your situation and go with it. Because doing it manually can get painful, especially if you have a lot of listings.
Right. That's absolutely true. And, I actually have an overview on the blog at paidforyourpad.com. You'll see there's Airbnb tools and resources, and there's an overview of a lot of these tools if you're interested. All right, let's move on to the sort of an overview of all the settings that are out there, right? So we've talked about minimum stay. Minimum stay is really it's kind of like a personal choice because obviously, like, if you do allow one night stays, like there's a lot more hassle. Now you were talking about like the cleaning costs. If you do set the cleaning fee lower than your actual costs, then obviously you really don't want to have like this 1 or 2 nighters. But if you set the cleaning fee to the actual cleaning cost, then it's just the extra hassle, right? Of sort of like the hassle of like the turnovers and the check-ins and everything. So depending on how you manage, that can be a lot of hassle, or it can be just a matter of just letting your cleaning person know that there's an extra booking or something. I started with 2-night minimums in my place, and at some point I started doing the 1-night minimum because I realized that there's some advantages to it as well. And there might be more advantages than you might think at first sight, I think, because obviously you get more bookings, right? If you have more shorter stays, the number of bookings go up, so the number of reviews go up, and I believe that this has a positive effect on your the sort of the rankings, your listings ranking in the search results. So that's one of the reasons that I switched to a 1-night minimum, but also it was that my cleaning person actually really didn't mind, because she really liked doing the work for my Airbnb listing, because I was paying her well, and she didn't mind at all. So I talked to her and said to her, like, hey, like, what if I change the minimum to 1 night? Like, there might be like there's going to be more turnovers, and she was like, oh, go for it. I'm more than happy to do it. So it did work out for me. I think with the 1 night minimum, I was definitely able to get to a little bit higher occupancy level. Now, this is back in the day when we didn't have that function that you described, where you can set different minimum nights for different periods. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to add to that, or should I go to the next one?
No, that's interesting. So did you pay your cleaning lady per cleaning, or was it kind of a flat fee?
Yeah, it was a flat fee.
Ah, okay. And in that case, as long as your cleaning person is fine with it, then that could absolutely work out. In fact, if they're fine with it, I would definitely go with the 1 night minimum stay, because the cost is the same to you. In my case, I was paying per cleanings, so that kind of adds up. Actually, in Arlington, I do a 2-night minimum stay, and I was doing the cleanings myself there, but I was not really thrilled about cleaning a room every single day. So just to give myself a break, I kept that 2-night minimum.
And by the way, another advantage of having the 1 night stay minimum is that, other than the bookings, the amount of views that you will get goes up a lot, because you're going to show up in the search results when people search for a 1 night stay. And so even if they just look at your listing, it's still I think it's still favorable for in terms of your position in the search results to get more views, because those views can also lead to more wishlist ads. So even if you don't get a booking, but somebody checks out your place and thinks, oh, this looks nice, let me put this on the wish list. So more views is always good, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Is there a correlation between the number of views you get and where you actually get placed in the I guess the listing results?
Well, you know what, like it's Airbnb doesn't disclose exactly how they do it, but if you sort of talk to people in the space, I think it's quite likely to assume that that more views, more bookings, more reviews, like all that activity, any activity on your Airbnb listing, also like updating your calendar, those things. I think it's kind of likely to assume that those are favorable. Definitely the wish lists. I believe they actually disclosed that at some point. And
Really?
the more people that view, the more people that have the chance to click on that wish list button, right?
Yeah, actually, that had never even occurred to me. I think there is a way that you can look and see how many people have added your space to a wish list, but
Yes.
I haven't actually looked at that.
Yeah, you can see it. You can see the amount of views as well. You can see, you can see quite a bit.
Yeah, I definitely track the views, and I kind of use the views to give me a sense of whether I'm overpriced or underpriced. I'll look at the views, and I'll also look at what similar listings, like listings similar to mine, what they're charging per night, and kind of come up with my pricing based on that.
Right. Yeah, and another thing that you could look at is, the views kind of depend on especially your first picture, and then maybe like the first five if people scroll through, because in the search results you can kind of scroll through some pictures, right?
Yeah.
And then the title and the price, I guess those are the three factors that kind of determine how many views you get. So that that's another thing that I used to play with is change my featured image, and then just kind of see if the amount of views will go up and down.
Right. And there are those factors. There's another factor that's probably often overlooked, but it's actually a very important one, and that's how much availability you have. Because I found when I had a guy book my place for like a month and a half, and my views went down drastically until about the last 2 weeks of his stay, and then suddenly they started popping right back up.
Right. Yeah.
But that will affect your views quite a bit when you don't have availability.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the thing, right? If you get longer stays are great in terms of, the sort of the amount of time you need to put in managing your place.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I believe the shorter stays are very advantageous in terms of, getting more bookings, getting more reviews, more activity, and a better ranking in your search results. So there's, like I always used to. I never used to get like bookings of over like maybe 1 week or sometimes 2 weeks. But what I did, I set the discount for longer stays like quite low, because I actually didn't want to have too many long stays. Because just like you mentioned, if you have like a 1 month stay or something, then your activity goes down so much that I'm worried that the position in the search results for my listing is going to go down.
Yeah, I've thought about that. I currently don't really have any incentive for people to stay for a month, but I guess apparently in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a lot of people are looking for long-term stays, like business people coming to the area. There are a lot of nurses who pass through that area. So I've actually gotten quite a few requests for it. And for me, I'm okay with long-term stays. I prefer to, if it's going to be over a month, I prefer to meet the person ahead of time, just because I'm living there. Make sure that it's not somebody who I'm going to sit there just counting the days until they finally leave. But so far I've had good experience, like very good long-term renters. And as far as the, losing out on the views and the reviews, once I get past a certain number of views, and I'm already a super host, so I've got that going for me. Once I'm past like 10 reviews on a listing, then I don't really worry about it as much, because I've never gotten the sense that the recency of the reviews makes that big a difference, as long as it's been within the past few months. And I've got the other listings that I can work to, so I'm still getting reviews from other properties or other listings at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of doing less work.
Do you set a maximum stay at all, or no?
I don't. Well, I don't, although I only have my calendar out to so far. But really, I don't think that's affected the length of stays at all. It's just affected how far in advance people are able to book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know if it makes sense to have like a maximum stay at all. The only thing I can think of is that in some areas if somebody stays more than 30 days or so, they get certain rights as a tenant. So that might be one concern, but yeah, so I guess that depends on your location. But that's really the only reason I can think of. Like I said before, like I prefer to get more shorter stays. Not like one-nighters all, of course, but like like 3, 4, 5 day stays, and I think are great. But because I didn't really provide an incentive for people to book like a month or 2 months or so, I just essentially just outpriced myself for those stays, because I mean, if you're charging like $250 a night, then a monthly stay comes at $7,500. Now, but if you go on Craigslist or you use other channels, I'm sure you can find something that's a lot cheaper than that. Because obviously people that are catering to the sort of the 1 or 2 month stay crowd, they have more, they have better prices. So that's kind of automatic. That way, you automatically kind of almost guarantee that no one's ever going to book for that long. And if somebody really wants to pay $7,500 for 1 month, then you can.
By all means,
go for it.
Yeah. I'd be happy to accept your money for that.
Exactly. So I'd say like maximum stay, probably just leave it empty. And then the next one is your booking window, the one that you mentioned, right? So you could choose from essentially from 5 options, right? You can either say dates are unavailable by default. You can say 3 months into the future, 6 months, 12 months, and all future dates. So I guess from a profit maximizing perspective, I would say you want to put it at 12 months. I would say like all future dates is a bit difficult because then like you don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? When you want to sell your house, if somebody books like 3 years out, it's like, well, I don't even know if I still own the house, but at that point, but I think 12 months. Would be my choice, and the reason is that means like just to optimize the amount of bookings and the amount of views and stuff. Although you have to be careful with one thing, which is you really have to make sure that you set your pricing right in your calendar. If you're not using a pricing app, if you're doing your prices manually, then you have to make sure you're on top of all the special dates. You don't want to have like a standard price for New Year's, for example. Imagine like on January 3rd or something, like you haven't adjusted your the price for New Year's for next year yet, and then somebody just instant books it for like $150, where you want to really charge like $300-400 or something. So if you're doing it manually, then there's more reason to go a little shorter or for 3 or 6 months. I wouldn't use 3 months because I used to get quite a few bookings that were sort of in the 4 to 6 months window.
Yeah, a lot of good points there. And I agree with you on 3 months, unless essentially there's a lot of uncertainty on what's going to happen with that property over the next few months, then absolutely, do that. And for example, while I'm out of town right now, I'm renting out the master bedroom as well. So I have that open just for like the next month and a half. Essentially, I put in dates unavailable unless I open them. Because when I am there, I'd kind of like to have a place to stay. For the 12 months, that's a good point too. And one of the good things about that is if you have repeat guests, for example, in Daytona Beach, as I mentioned, we have Bike Week that happens every year, and people will book way in advance for that. Or the Daytona 500, they'll book way in advance for that as well. And if you have a guest that stayed and they really liked your place, as soon as they check out, they may be ready to book again for the next year. And if you've got it open, that far in advance, they can go right back in and do it. And next thing you know, you're already filling up your calendar. But the point that you made there about making sure that you're on top of your pricing is very important. I actually keep a calendar of not just national holidays, so I know when the 3-day weekends are coming, so I can adjust my prices accordingly, but also major events that are coming up in the area. Like in Texas, in Arlington, I'm 3 miles from Cowboy Stadium and from the Texas Rangers baseball stadium, as well as Six Flags. Where the Cowboys play, I have marked down on my calendar whenever the Cowboys have a home game, because the hotel prices go up a lot on those weekends. Not as much for the Rangers home games, but still, some kind of adjustment there. And then looking ahead to when Justin Bieber's coming to town to play at AT&T Stadium or something like that. I think the Eagles are actually coming this summer, and those are times too when I can bump up my prices as long as I know that that's coming and get it on the calendar. Mm-hmm. But yeah, all very good points.
Well, thank you. And do you have anything to add to any of these?
No, we covered a lot of topics on this one.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, very good discussion.
I know, it's funny. Like when we talked about doing this episode on calendar settings, I was kind of thinking like, okay, well, we need to add some other things to it because how long are we going to talk about calendar settings? Like 10, 15 minutes, and we should be done. But I think
apparently there's a lot to discuss on calendar settings.
And you know what? Like, I'm still going to look into this stuff more because I still feel like even though we covered a lot of good points, but there's still something in the back of my head that make me feel like there's still some like little details or something that I haven't thought about. So I'm definitely gonna start like dig even deeper in the next few weeks. So I'm actually gonna set up my Airbnb listing here in Cali in Colombia soon. So that will be a good time for me to sit down and really dig as deep as I can to find like the optimal way to manage the calendar.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see that place.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, man. It's pretty sweet. I'm excited, but I really want to stay there a couple of weeks myself before I rent it out on Airbnb because you really want to know what the experience is. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to market something if you haven't experienced it yourself.
Absolutely.
So, I'm gonna also just like it's such an awesome place that I would love to just stay there myself. It's pretty sweet. So all right, well, JJ, thanks a lot for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you, and I think we covered some interesting topics. So really appreciate the insights that you provided.
Yeah, thanks, Jasper. I appreciate it. It was a good time.
Alrighty, and for the listeners, of course, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, this is kind of a complicated topic, I realized, but feel free to send an email, jasper@getpaidforyourpad.com, or comment on the Facebook page, on Instagram, on YouTube, and all those other cool places. So thanks for listening, and until next time.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.